Let's talk about my 23 most anticipated manga releases for 2023. Stay tuned. Is a year that's going to be filled with so many great manga releases that I am extremely excited about, to the point that when I sat down and wanted to put this video together, I originally planned for it to just be 10 volumes that I was looking forward to. And I had to expand it to 20, and then I thought, you know what, let's do 23 for 2023. I think that's kind of clever, and we can get away with that. Now, the first question you might be asking is, why are we doing this in March instead of at the beginning of the year? And there is a good reason for that. The reason that I delayed until March was because I wanted to give a little bit of time for new licenses to get announced. Specifically, I wanted to wait for the February license announcements from Viz Media, and those did happen at the beginning of February, so it's been about a month since those. Because I knew from experience from the last time I did one of these videos, I believe I did do it in January, and with that I was only really able to cover stuff from the beginning of the year through maybe like August and September, but now we know things all the way through October and a little bit of stuff from November and December as well. So we get a nicer just kind of picture of the entire year rather than being, you know, just in the first 8 months or so. So that's the reason why this is a little delayed. So I'm going through these, and we're going to look at these in the order of their release. I have these lined up mostly in order of release. I might have these a little bit out of order, and for that I apologize, but I will put the dates up on the screen as well as prices and any other relevant information as we're talking through them. Some of these are going to be new first volumes, maybe some single volume releases, some final volumes. There's at least one box set on the list as well that I, off the top of my head. So all kinds of stuff. And hopefully if you join me in this video, then there's some things that I can help to make you excited about too. So you're going to be anticipating these releases right alongside me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. And the first new release I have to talk about is Dead Dead Demons Diri Diri Destruction Volume 12 from Inio Asano. This is the final volume of Inio Asano's recent series, Dead Dead Demons. It did wrap up in Japan, of course, a little while ago, and since then he has started work on another series. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I guarantee we'll see that one licensed in the not too distant future, but for now we get to anticipate the ending of this release, and I really love this series. Asano is one of my favorite creators, and if you are familiar with me and my channel, you might have seen my video where I talked about my top 10 concluded manga, and Goodnight Poon Poon has a pretty significant spot on that list because of how like viscerally it made me feel when I was reading it. I love that series so much, and I enjoyed the hell out of this one as well. It's such a different title from Asano. It is an alien invasion series, but rather than focusing on like the invasion itself and the aliens coming to Earth and wreaking havoc on the humans, it more focuses on a group of humans, a group of teenage girls, trying to live their life as you know, normal during the time that this invasion is going on. And it makes for a really interesting, you know, dramatic series where you get to know these characters before they do kind of get intertwined with the ongoings of the aliens and in the invasion itself. It's fantastic, and everything, you know, of course, is leading towards the big dramatic conclusion that I cannot wait to read. Next up, we have one very exciting release from Square Enix, the newest series from Hiromu Arakawa, of course the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, Silver Spoon, and more, is Daemons of the Shadow Realm. This is a fantasy adventure series. Just knowing that it's from Hiromu Arakawa should be enough to sell anyone on it, but if you need to know what it's about, fantasy action adventure series. After some tragic events unfold within his village, Yuru discovers a conspiracy that ties him and his twin Asa to a prophecy that threatens the entire world. So again, it could have been literally about anything and I would have picked it up. The proof of that is with Silver Spoon being such a fantastic series, even though it's just a slice of life series about agricultural students, which is like the complete opposite end of the spectrum as opposed to Fullmetal Alchemist. So that's proof that Hiromu Arakawa could do anything, and I would be excited to pick it up. But the series itself sounds really great. No, I haven't been reading the chapters. I know a lot of people have. A lot of people whose opinions I trust have said it's fantastic. So I'm very much looking forward to being able to try it out in the not too distant future. Next, from Viz Media's signature line, this one was a very, very wanted license. One of the top asked for license, the top requested licenses from Viz since it started being published, and that is Boys of Viz. This is a drama horror mystery type series about a young man named Ryley who lives in this miserable small town, and it's about all of the drama that unfolds around him until the day that a pop star, a pop idol, shows up at a local convenience store offering him a way out. This does deal with a lot of really heavy subject matter. It's not going to be for everyone, but if you enjoy drama series with heavy subject matter, this is going to be one that you definitely want to pick up. Moving into an easier direction, we now have one from Yen Press, and I think the only box set on this list, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Box Set 1, or as Yen Press has labeled it, the first stall, because the box set itself is designed to look like a bathroom stall, which I think is absolutely hilarious and is a large reason why I want to pick this box set up, just the novelty of having a bathroom stall on my shelf. So it does contain the first 10 volumes of the Toilet Bound Hanako-kun series, which is getting a new anime adaptation in the near future. And it has an MSRP of $100, which means that it's $30 less than if you were to be buying the individual 10 volumes at cover price, which is fantastic. Which means that online you'll probably be able to get it for like 70 to 80 bucks, which is even more fantastic. People generally are familiar with what Toilet Bound Hanako-kun is about. I've already read the first like 5 or 6 volumes, and this is the reason why I'm getting back into the series, is because of this first stall box set. So thank you so much for Yen Press for putting this wonderful thing out. I cannot wait to pick it up. Next, we have a huge release coming from 7 Seas. When I say like anticipated releases and stuff, things, licenses that people were greatly requesting, this was at the top of so many people's lists, and that is Don't Call It Mystery, or as it was known in Japan, Mystery Towa Unakare, the currently ongoing title from legendary creator Yumi Tamura. Now, if you're not familiar with the name Yumi Tamura right off the bat, that's probably not your fault, because America has not done well with her titles. 2 of her most well-known titles, aside from Don't Call It Mystery, would be Basara and 7 Seas. Maybe you recognize the names, maybe you don't. Basara was published in English back in the early 2000s, but since then it's not gotten reprinted, and most of the series is very hard to find for a good price. If you're looking online, you're going to see people selling some of these volumes for absolutely ludicrous prices. I think I just saw someone yesterday post volume 20 listed on Amazon for $1,000, which is insane. Her other most well-known series, 7 Seeds, has never gotten an English release before, despite how popular it is. You might be familiar with the title, though, because it did get a Netflix adaptation. However, the adaptation was so poorly done that most fans of the series itself refuse to even acknowledge that it exists. So it is kind of a miracle that we're finally getting the official English release for Mystery Towa Unakare, or Don't Call It Mystery. The series, of course, is a mystery manga, as the title would suggest, that follows a young man named Totano who just wants to live a peaceful life, go home, eat curry, and, you know, live easily, but he keeps getting wrapped into all of these mystery plots. I believe there are 12 volumes currently in Japan. It also has a live-action drama adaptation that you may or may not have seen pictures from. But with the 12 volumes, and they're doing 2-in-1s in English, they're kind of staggering the English release. So I don't even know when the second volume is supposed to be released in English, but this one I think is coming out this summer, and it does collect the first 2 of the Japanese volumes in one single 2-in-1 omnibus from 7 Seas. Now, next up we have, this was a surprise that got licensed, I believe, last October from Viz, and this is a Marvel comic, Wolverine Snicked. Why are we getting a Marvel comic from Viz? Because it is from creator Tsutomu Nihei of series such as Biomega, Abara, Blame, or Blam, as it's supposed to be pronounced, and Knights of Sidonia. This is actually not a new book. This is from the early to mid 2000s. Tsutomu Nihei worked with Marvel to release this series in, I believe it was either 4 or 5 single issues. I don't remember exactly how many. But the single issues were released. They were collected as a trade paperback, but that trade paperback has gone very, very much out of print. And I feared that we were never going to see this reprinted, and I would never be able to add it to my Nihei library. Thankfully, I was wrong, and we did get a reprint from Viz Media that's coming out later this year. The story itself does follow Wolverine of the X-Men as he winds up being the last hope for the remaining humans in a desolate wasteland to fight against robotic organisms. Will he save humans and his own humanity, or will he succumb to his berserker rage and bring about the extinction of mankind? Any fan of Tsutomu Nihei, you're going to want to pick this one up. Look up the artwork, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a full color release. Similar, it's probably going to be the same trim and everything, the same size as the Secret Reverse that came out last summer from the late creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Kazuki Takahashi. So I'm really obviously looking forward to this one, and I want y'all to be excited about it too, because I'm excited about it. Anyway, moving back over to 7 Seas, we've got the 4th and final omnibus edition of Spriggan. Now, I recently read the first 3. I read 1 and 2 back to back as I was trying to catch up for the release of Volume 3, and I absolutely loved it. This series is so much fun. It's just quintessential like 90s action manga. You may have seen the anime on Netflix. I've watched part of it. The manga is way better. It's just such a fun and gripping series. It's very easy to get absorbed into it, and even though those omnis are like 600, 700 pages long each, it's very easy to get into and very easy to just lose yourself and read the entire brick of a book in 1 or 2 sittings, no problem. If you're like hesitant to pick this series up because you don't, I know a lot of people don't like omnibus editions, obviously I feel different. They're very well built. The binding on these is fantastic. There's like little to no gutter loss, and you don't have to worry about the spine cracking because it's made with a nice flexible material that allows it to be opened and read rather easily. So I highly recommend Spriggan. If you haven't tried it out yet, pick up that first omnibus. It's a really great action sci-fi series. At the very least, you could try it out by watching the Netflix anime. Next up, another one from 7 Seas who's absolutely killing it with releases this year is Homunculus. This is another one of the most wanted, the most requested licenses for a little while, and finally 7 Seas was able to acquire the license and announce, I think late last year, that they would be releasing it. It is a psychological thriller horror manga, but I want to spend the time talking about this, kind of talking about what the release is going to be, because I know there's some confusion because they announced that this was going to be 5 2-in-1s. Fans of the series might be familiar with the fact that it was originally published across 15 volumes, so how are we going to have 5 2-in-1s if it was 15 volumes? Well, in Japan, the series was re-released across 10 volumes. So each of those 10 volumes was basically 1.5 of the original volumes. This happens for a lot of series in Japan, and we wind up getting some of our English releases are based on those Japanese releases themselves. So when they say 2-in-1s, they're referring to those re-released volumes. So there are 5 2-in-1 volumes, but each of these are going to be the same length as a normal like 3-in-1 volume, so each will be about 600 pages rather than being about 400 pages. I didn't check the trim size, but I would imagine these are going to be similar to Spriggan, so even though they're going to be pretty thick, they should be oversized, and they should be built similarly, I would imagine, so that, like I was saying with Spriggan, they're going to be flexible spines that you don't have to worry about cracking or bending or anything like that, with very little gutter loss, with like little effort to try and actually open the book itself. Again, those Spriggan volumes are really well built. I imagine they'll do the same thing for these. At least I'm crossing my finger that they are. Next up, let's move back over to Viz for a couple of releases. First up, Goodbye Eri from Tatsuki Fujimoto. It's been a banner year for Tatsuki Fujimoto releases. We had, of course, he's most well known for Chainsaw Man, and Viz has decided to ride off of that popularity, and they've been releasing as much Fujimoto as quickly as possible. So very soon after the Japanese volume of Look Back was announced, Viz announced the English physical print, and very soon after the physical edition of Goodbye Eri was announced, Viz also announced the physical edition of that. We also have the 2 one-shot collections, the Before Chainsaw Man volume 1, which was like 17 to 21, that refers to his age at the time that the one-shots were drawn or written. I believe the first one was 17 to 21. That one was released recently. The second one is coming in the near future, and we have Goodbye Eri, which is another like graphic novel length one-shot story similar to Look Back that was published in Weekly Shonen Jump sometime, I think was it early last year? I don't remember exactly when it was published, but there's one more one-shot after this one that he's done that we'll probably see announced by Viz in the near future. And that'll pretty much give us everything of Fujimoto available in English, which is great for fans of Fujimoto like me. I love having all of the works of the creators that I love. Next from Viz, we get Dr. Stone Volume 26, the final volume of this fantastic Shonen Jump title from writer Riichiro Inagaki, who's the writer of one of my favorite sports manga of all time, Eyeshield 21, and from artist Boichi, who has another series that's coming out in the fall of this year called Origin. It's coming from Kodansha. I don't know if they're doing the single volume release, but Boichi is known for a lot of different things, and it's nice to see that he's getting something like Origin released in English finally, because there are a lot of things of his that have not been able to be released yet in English, like Sunken Rock is another popular one that doesn't have a physical release. But I want to focus on Dr. Stone. I love Dr. Stone. This came out at a time where there was a lot of different things happening in the Shonen Jump magazine. It was starting to move away from just like shonen action series, and we got a lot of titles like The Promised Neverland that moved more into like a dark fantasy mystery type story. And then of course Dr. Stone, which is more of a sci-fi adventure title that delves into the science behind how things are done and made in this society that they had to build from the ground up. It's such a fun title, and like I said, it's so different from most shonen titles that were coming out. I love it. I loved it from first volume, and I cannot wait to be able to wrap it up and have the entire series on my shelves. Do I think there's probably going to be a box set in the future? Because I know people ask about that kind of stuff. There's a possibility. I feel like because of the success also of the anime, and because we're seeing Viz being a little bit more generous, liberal with their box set releases. We just saw Chainsaw Man Part 1 and The Promised Neverland getting box sets in the near future. I think that there's a good possibility, especially since it's only 26 volumes and that fits nicely into one box, that they might go ahead and do that later. But that's just conjecture on my part. I don't want to put any ideas into people's minds. I'm just talking about how much I'm anticipating Volume 26 to come out. Next up from Dark Horse, the first Dark Horse release that I have on this list is Oh My Goddess Omnibus Volume 7. I want to mention this mostly because I want to talk about how excited I am that like Dark Horse is kind of coming back in full form now that they're kind of done with the drama of being moved between owners. They were bought out, I believe sometime last year, by Embracer Group, who used to be THQ Nordic, if I'm not mistaken. I followed the breadcrumbs on that to kind of figure out what was going on there. But with that, they've been able to give a lot more focus on releases. And not only have they licensed a couple of new, very exciting things, but they've made a return towards reprinting a lot of things, such as the Oh My Goddess Omnibuses Volume 1 through 6, Astro Boy, they reprinted Lone Wolf and Cub. So not only are they doing reprints, but they are kind of resurrecting these dead lines, like finally releasing the 7th omnibus of Oh My Goddess, finally continuing Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service. So this is fantastic stuff to see from Dark Horse, and like I said, it's mostly just talking about everything going on at Dark Horse by talking about Oh My Goddess Volume 7, but also Oh My Goddess Volume 7 of the omnibus editions is coming out. Now, these are 3-in-1 omnis, and there are 48 total volumes, I think, in the original Japanese run, which means that there's going to be a total of 13 omnibus editions. So this is like the halfway point, basically, with Volume 7. So there's still a long ways to go, and we haven't seen 8 announced yet. There's no telling how long it's going to take, but I'm just glad to see Dark Horse moving forward with stuff like this and bringing back dead lines. Next up from Yen Press is The Summer Hikaru Died. This one is a wild series. I believe it started like in 2020 or 2021 in Japan, and it's garnered a lot of attention and praise. The story is about Yoshiki and Hikaru, who are both close friends and potential romantic partners despite their opposing personalities and hobbies. One summer day, as Hikaru is hiking, he becomes injured, and before he dies, he's consumed by an eldritch being who physically becomes him. And while he maintains his memories and his emotions, he is definitely not the same person. And this new nature of Hikaru, as well as all these other eldritch beings and people who are hunting them who start appearing, make it impossible for Yoshiki to try to continue their relationship. It's one of the wildest descriptions of a title, and like I said, it's garnered a lot of praise in Japan, and I cannot wait for this one to come out. Yen Press has been licensing some really exciting new things, and that is no different. Next, moving it back over to 7 Seas, we get the Lupin the Third Classic Collection Hardcover 2. So we had 2 years ago, I think, or like early last year. I don't remember exactly when, but the like Greatest Heists collection came out from 7 Seas, and they put it in one of those great like classic collection hardcovers like they did with like Kamen Rider and stuff like that. Beautiful collection, and now we get a follow-up. There's a ton of Lupin material. So these 2 hardcovers are covering like barely scratching the surface. And I don't know how many of these hardcovers are gonna do, because generally they are based on Japanese releases, and I don't think that there's that many. I don't think there's a ton of these greatest hits type releases, but hopefully the sales on these books are good enough to warrant 7 Seas to try and do more Lupin releases, because we've been in dire need of having Lupin reprinted and made available again in English since, you know, Tokyo Pop lost the license such a long time ago. Especially with like, there's kind of a resurgence in interest of Lupin because of the new animes that had been starting up in the past several years, and from companies like Discotech releasing all those Blu-rays of all the movies, TV specials, etc. There's a renewed interest in Lupin, and I'm really happy about that. And I hope that this is not the last time that we see a hardcover with manga release. I'd love a full collection of Lupin released from 7 Seas in honestly any format, but these hardcovers are amazing. Another hardcover release, this time from Kodansha, Vinland Saga Deluxe Edition Volume 1. This is going to be collecting the first 3 volumes of Vinland Saga, not the first 3 of Kodansha's 2-in-1 hardcovers, but it will be the first of their hardcovers plus the first half of the second hardcover. These are going to be oversized volumes, the same dimensions as the Berserk hardcovers, or the same dimensions as Kodansha hardcovers, such as the newly released Ghost in the Shell or the 2-volume Silent Voice hardcover set. There's a lot of examples of stuff that they've released in this format. But I'm excited about this for a couple of reasons. Number 1, because Vinland Saga is a fantastic series. Number 2, because seeing them release a deluxe edition set for a long-running series like Vinland Saga, something where this is going to be a lot of volumes, and it's still an ongoing title as well, so there's no telling how long this series of hardcovers would be. This shows that they have a commitment to these kinds of deluxe edition titles. I know that these big hardcovers are not for everyone, but for me, I love these, and that's why this is highly anticipated. I have all of Vinland Saga. I'm gonna buy this anyway because I love the increased page size. That increased page size for those hardcovers like this or like Berserk, that's the page size of the magazines that they're printed in originally. So we get these kind of unshrunken from the smaller pages they get thrown on for the tankobon releases, and that's something that I really love. That's a big reason why I want to get Vinland Saga hardcover. I think it's going to be a beautiful set. I can't wait to get it and just compare it to the standard 2-in-1 volumes that we have. Yes, it's going to be an expensive difference between the 2 releases, but in my opinion, I think it's going to be worth it. We can't have an anticipated release without a Junji Ito book, and of course we have a few Junji Ito books that we already know are coming out throughout the rest of 2023, and my personal most anticipated is Soichi, the story collection. We have only had a couple Soichi stories in English, but there are so many Soichi stories that were published in Japan, and now we finally get that Soichi story collection for the first time in English, collecting the rest of Soichi's little stories. Soichi, of course, is the little kid that you might mostly recognize with the nails in his mouth. My friend Gio, who, if you watch my second channel, the Omnibus Collectors Network, Gio and I do manga-related videos every Thursday evening, and every other Thursday we're joined by our friend Colleen from the channel Colleen's Manga Rex. Gio hates Soichi. And so, Gio, if you watch this, I'm sorry, but I love the kid, and I'm so highly anticipating this release. I know that we have Tombs coming out later in March, and Mimi's Tales of Terror coming out in like October, but this is the Junji Ito release that I am super excited about. I've been wanting the Soichi stories in English for a while. This is great. On the topic of Junji Ito, there is, at this point, kind of after Mimi's Tales of Terror, there is a limited amount of releases that are going to be coming from him, from Viz Media. And I know essentially what those are going to wind up being. So I do plan on, in the near future, after the release of Tombs later in March, I do plan on doing an updated Junji Ito video. So I'm, fingers crossed I can get that out in a timely manner, but look forward to that. If you liked my first Junji Ito video, this will be expanding upon that. So look forward to that one. Anyway, moving onwards, we get one from Denpa. Keep in mind with Denpa releases, because of the printers that they use and stuff, there is a very high likeliness that this gets pushed back, not just from the release it has now, but later, pushed back maybe even to next year, we don't know. But this is Moto Hagio's They Were 11. This is a classic sci-fi graphic novel about a 10-person crew of space cadets who are going through these tests. And their final test is that they have to board a decommissioned ship and survive as long as they possibly can. But once they board the ship, they find that their crew of 10 has expanded to a crew of 11, and they don't know who this new member is. The biggest problem is that due to the nature of the exams and stuff, no one's really familiar with everyone else, so no one has any clue who the 11th, like who the new person is. And so they have to sit there and kind of figure out who they are and why they're there, what their aim is throughout this mystery graphic novel. I am so highly excited and anticipating that one. It's going to be a great new release. And then moving to something a little bit lighter, we get Akane Banashi from the Shonen Jump line over at Viz. This one was announced, I think, in October, if I'm not mistaken. It was a pretty quick announcement after, because it started in February of last year. And usually they wait at least, I want to say at least a year before announcing the physical release of something in English. But this one was such a big hit in Weekly Shonen Jump that undoubtedly they wanted to get it out quickly. It's gotten so much praise, not just from readers and stuff, but also from creators. Like Eiichiro Oda had mentioned that it's one of his favorite titles that he's reading right now. So very excited about any new Shonen Jump release, but Akane Banashi is a really very, very truly exciting one. Next up is a re-release of something that I am very thankful for, because I was trying to find the paperbacks, and now it's getting reprinted in hardcover, and this is coming from Viz Media's signature line, and that is of course Kazuo Umezu's Cat-Eyed Boy. This is a 2-volume release. The paperbacks were also 2 volumes, so same basic thing, but those paperbacks are extremely hard to find right now, and these are going to be beautiful hardcovers. I love hardcover manga, so I'm sure these are going to be no different. Kazuo Umezu's classic horror creator series like Orochi, which is wrapping up pretty soon, and the Drifting Classroom, which I absolutely love. This is about a young boy from the demon realm who's living among humans, but he's hated by both. Super excited about that, especially because I've been trying to collect everything from the Viz signature line, and this getting reprinted is going to help me out immensely with reaching that goal. Now, moving forward, we have a 1-2 punch of series by a creator who I don't believe has ever had anything available in English before, so it's very exciting that we're getting not just 1, but 2 new releases from him. And that is 2 things from Shinichi Sakamoto. The first one coming from Viz Media's signature line is, I hate the title, #DRCL Midnight Children. I'm just going to call it Dracula Midnight Children from here on. This is a hardcover release. It is a retelling of the classic Dracula story that pits Mina against an enemy from the east. The Russian cargo ship, the Demeter, is dashed upon the cliffs of Whitby Harbor, unleashing a demonic plague upon Mina and her fellow students at the Whitby School, where she is the only female student. I'm not someone who's like hugely into vampire media or anything like that, but I really don't care because it's Shinichi Sakamoto and his artwork is absolutely stunning, and it's going to be a hardcover release. Again, I love hardcover manga. I'm super excited about this one. The other one coming from Shinichi Sakamoto, which in my opinion is even more exciting, the Dracula one is currently ongoing, by the way, in Japan. But Innocent is coming from Dark Horse. This announcement kind of came out of nowhere late last year, but Innocent has been a series that a ton of people have been asking for, and it's finally coming out in omnibus editions from Dark Horse. The first volume, there's going to be 3-in-1s, and I confirmed with Dark Horse via Twitter that they're going to be the same trim size as Oh My Goddess. I figured that it would be because these have a $30 price point, which is the same as the Oh My Goddess ones, so it is not going to be the same smaller trim like the Lone Wolf and Cub or Gantz omnibus editions. It is going to be a larger trim size. So Innocent is the fictionalized take by Shinichi Sakamoto on the true life of, I'm sorry, I'm not French, but Charles-Henri Sanson, the gentleman of Paris who performed nearly 3,000 executions in 18th century France. Look up the artwork of this series. I'm going to show a little bit of it here, but just so y'all can see how amazing Shinichi Sakamoto's work is, this is absolutely crazy. Now, this ran for 9 volumes, so there will be 3 of these, but if the sequel, Innocent Rouge, is licensed, then that will be 12 volumes, so it'll be another 4 3-in-1 volumes. That hasn't been announced yet, it hasn't been officially licensed, but I want to imagine that if Innocent does well enough, that Dark Horse is not going to wait too long before doing the sequel series as well. So 3 3-in-1s for Innocent, 4 3-in-1s potentially for Innocent Rouge. Then we have a 2-in-1, this is where I'm cheating a little bit, Hunter x Hunter 37 and Chainsaw Man Volume 12. They're not, first volumes, they're not final volumes, but they are new volumes of series that had been kind of on a hiatus for a little while. Chainsaw Man, of course, was on hiatus because after the end of Part 1, Fujimoto took a little bit of a break. Part 2 began last summer. The first volume came out, I think, last October, so now we're getting it a year later in the States this October. So Volume 12, the first volume of Part 2. And we won't have to wait that long for the second volume, Part 2, Volume 13, because it's already available for pre-order. I think it's releasing like December of this year, so it's not going to be that long of a wait. Hunter x Hunter, though, that's the more exciting one because it has been years since we had Volume 36, and now we finally get Volume 37. Of course, after he came back from the longest hiatus that he had taken, Togashi being the he in this situation, he came back from his longest hiatus ever, and as is typical, not just coming back with new chapters, they also announce a new volume every time he returns from the hiatus. So Volume 37 is collecting, I believe it's chapters 381 to 390, and the most recent batch of chapters that he did before going back onto hiatus was 391 to 400. So this does not collect that recent batch of chapters. This is the stuff that came right before it, for those of you who are not aware. Now, the situation has kind of changed because as it's been in the past, he would go on hiatus, but when he comes back, the editors at Weekly Shonen Jump, Shueisha's editors, would require him to have at least a batch of 10 chapters ready for publication so that they can put those out weekly and then have enough material for that next volume. And they would continue that pattern where he'd release those weekly, he'd go back on hiatus, and when he came back with the next batch of 10 chapters, along with those new chapters, they would announce that new volume of the previous material. But this time, he went back on a hiatus after 10 chapters, chapter 400 being the last one, and pretty promptly thereafter, the editorial team released a statement saying that they would be adjusting the way that he releases these chapters because they want to kind of allow, ease for his health issues, where if you're unaware, he has debilitating back issues where it causes him to not be able to actually sit up and draw. That's why he has to take the breaks that he does. And it's so bad to the point that he has to spend most of his time completely flat on his back. And not to get like gross or anything, but he's even talked about the fact that he cannot use the bathroom on his own without help cleaning up. So that said, they're trying to work alongside him with those health issues that he's been experiencing. So instead of being required to release 10 chapters at a time, He'll essentially be able to release at his own pace, but it's not going to be in Weekly Shonen Jump, and that's why there's a recent like kind of made up drama where they're like, oh, it's been archived, the series is done. It was archived because the manga is no longer in Weekly Shonen Jump. It's being transferred elsewhere. They haven't said where just yet. I imagine it'll probably be a digital release, and this will allow for him to just release the chapters one at a time as they're available. Anyway, I've spent enough time talking about Hunter x Hunter, but I've been following the series for like almost 20 years now, so I have feelings about it, and I'm always excited when it comes back after its numerous hiatus, because it's been going on hiatus regularly for at least the past 20 years, I want to say. Another one from the Viz Media Shonen Jump line, and this one I'm hugely anticipating, even though it was an obvious one that was going to come out this year even before they announced it, is Stone Ocean. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 was officially announced in February, so we're getting Stone Ocean Volume 1 in November. JoJo's is one of my top favorite franchise of all time. Stone Ocean is fantastic. We had the anime release just recently wrapped up as well, so fans of Stone Ocean, if you watch the anime and love it, you can pick up the manga physically in English now in the near future. Stone Ocean should have 9 total volumes because like Golden Wind, the original Japanese release was 17 volumes. Golden Wind is getting 9 volumes, so we can assume that this will have 9 volumes released. 1 volume every 3 months, so 4 volumes a year, as they've been doing since the beginning of these hardcover releases. So we are just, just a little over 2 years away from Steel Ball Run, which is great because that's my personal favorite part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as well as many people's favorite parts. Anyway, Stone Ocean, very excited to have that on. I'm anticipating mainly, I want to see what the design is going to look like, because they always come up with interesting things to put on the spine. I think it's going to have the Jolene's like butterfly motif on the spine, but we'll see. We'll check in a couple months when they release the cover design. And finally, we're wrapping up this list with Blade of the Immortal hardcover volume 10 from Dark Horse. Now that of course wraps up Blade of the Immortal, but it also is the last hardcover release that we're going to get from Dark Horse, like one of these deluxe editions, for the foreseeable future, because volume 13 of Berserk is going to be the last hardcover for Berserk for a long time, assuming that they're waiting on volume 42 to be released. And while the material is coming out, the posthumous material that does not include direct work by Kentaro Miura, we're waiting for that material to come out enough to put into a 42nd volume in Japan. And once that happens in Japan, it'll probably be another year before we get 42 paperback in the US, and who knows how long they're going to wait before they do the 14th hardcover. So Berserk volume 13 hardcover is the last one we're going to see for a while. Blade of the Immortal is the last hardcover we know is coming out. And I made a video like 2 years ago about other series that I would love to see get this deluxe edition release, and obviously none of those have been announced. I still would love to see things like, Dance get a hardcover release now that that paperback omnibus line is wrapping up. I would love to see, with the attention being brought to Trigun again, I would love to see that series re-released in hardcover editions. I would love to see, Lone Wolf and Cub. I'm not the biggest Lone Wolf and Cub fan ever, but I know that hardcovers would be beautiful for that. Dark Horse hasn't announced anything, but as I mentioned earlier in the video, things are kind of happening over at Dark Horse, so maybe they will announce something in the near future. All that said, that was my list of my most anticipated releases for 2023. We had 23, technically 24. I also mentioned Origin, so 25 maybe, but 23 for 2023. Let me know, please, in the comments which of these you are anticipating, and also what new books are you looking forward to that are coming out in 2023. Any new licenses, anything that's ending, any just random volume of a series that you love that's coming out. You are highly anticipating One Piece 104? Sure, yeah, let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear back from y'all because that always interests me to find out what my viewers are interested in. Thank you so much for spending time with this. I hope that this video was helpful in kind of making you excited about things that you may have not known were coming out, or maybe you saw it get announced but you didn't really know what it was, so you weren't excited about it. Hopefully this helps. That's why I do these videos. It's always to help the people watching so that they can know what's out there, know what's good, kind of make more informed purchases. So again, thank you for watching. I hope that I was successful in that, and I hope that you'll join me in my further endeavors and new videos that I have coming out on a mostly weekly basis. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so, and I'll see you all on the next one. Peace out.